Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Talkin Kop. We're here for some full-time match reaction. I'm your host, Matt. I'm joined by my regular group of Kev, Chris, and Ashley once again. And we are here to chew bubblegum and talk about a Reds team that's going to win the Premier League. And Ashley, I'm all out of bubblegum.
Well, I think the bubbles were all used up by West Ham this last weekend. So I'm okay with that. So I think between that game and the game tonight with Arsenal, it was like the cherry on top. And to have that performance, it was great. It was nice and easy. It was a clean sheet. It was all the things we wanted it to be.
Yeah. I mean, Chris, these two games were supposed to be, part of the blip. A late 2-2 loss to Everton, and then another draw at Aston Villa, and we've got Man City away and Newcastle at home on the horizon. And this is it. If there's going to be a title race, this is the week that it's going to happen, and it is almost a guarantee now that it is not going to happen.
Our blip was 11 points from 15, and that's why all of us here could not. We could understand the annoyance of some of the draws, but I could not understand some of the vitriol and the doom and gloom. Liverpool have been unreal. This is the closest you're going. This is the closest you're going to get to like a 1920 thing. It's February, and you can tell the chasing pack have given up now. Arsenal have ran out of steam. Losing to West Ham was a killer for them because even if they had a fully fit squad, Forest away is a nightmare. You don't want to go Forest away needing points, needing a win. We know that. We hate Slot especially hates Forest because we can't beat them. So listen, tonight was professional cruise control. I think Kev put in our third gear. But some of the interplay tonight was excellent. So listen, just enjoy the ride now because it is the matter of when, not if.
It's just great. I mean, Kev, the only downside is you start thinking about some of those kind of easy points that we left on the table. The away game at Newcastle with Kelleher, not catching that ball at the last minute, the Tarkowski goal at the end, and thinking like, holy shit, this is like. It's now just a race to when mathematically it's done and we can start receiving guards of honor. And it's just, Kev, this is why we do this shit, man. This is why shit.
I mean, look, I was thinking, look, that's a first-class performance from a side that was in third gear all night. It was complete cruise control, virtual domination. I don't think Alisson had anything really to do for the odd little save here and there. But in fairness, Newcastle are generally a pain in the ass kind of side. It would have been a sucker punch for them knowing that Isak wasn't available. I think they kept that on the wraps really, really well because no one had a clue. And
JVT had a clue. He gave us a clue.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, other than that was as comfortable a game as I've seen us play against Newcastle in a long time. It can be one of those sticky fixtures, especially on the run of a back, on the back end of a lot of minutes for some of these players. A lot of these players have played serious minutes over the last 3 weeks, and this could have been the one that you're like, is this one a bit too far? Nothing of the kind. It was a ridiculously comfortable performance. We worked hard. We worked hard off the ball, but it was some of the interplay in the first half, some of the one-touch passing. It was like they knew. They knew when they were playing how if we need to step this up, we can. It was one of these games that I think all the players will come off and really enjoy that. And then they'll see the scores, and then they'll look at the table. They know it's from one of the things they mentioned in commentary was really valid. If you get picked through PSG, beat Southampton, box off the League Cup, you can look at April with the Champions League knowing that you can really manage your squad through the Premier League fixtures and really focus on the back end of the Champions League. You can give it a right go. You know, I mean, we're in such a strong position in the league now that you can really start to eye up the Champions League. As potentially, we really could go very deep in this. Anything is possible at the minute. Again, some brilliant performances. No one dropped the clanger. No one let anyone down. It was a really good night, a really comfortable night, and the way the results panned out, perfect. You know, can't not be happy with that. I mean, fairness, Newcastle are sat in 6th. If they'd have got a win tonight, Newcastle would have been level on points with Man City. That puts it into perspective how good that performance was with how easy it was.
Yeah, and I mean, Newcastle don't really lose ground if you look at it over a week-long thing because City lost their last game. So they can go again, and we don't have to worry about these teams anymore. But Richard Lefebvre saying the same sort of thing that Kev was saying there. The best part is that Slot now has total flexibility to manage roster and minutes as he sees fit. And I like this one from Gary Boland because I believe Gav did our next 5 games kind of medium-term preview talking about having 5 games in 15 days and some tough away games in there. And we scored 2 goals in all the games. We got 11 points out of a possible 15, and we've extended our lead at the top.
In that.
Yeah. We just keep on chugling. I mean, we can go through the moments, but we don't have a Sunday night show following hot on our heels, so we can talk in a little bit broader strokes. But I mean, Ashley, 3 minutes into the game, I maybe Gav will be doing another episode of Good Process where we can actually look at the highlight of this.
This whole game could fit into a good process alone.
Oh, Jesus Christ, yeah.
Yeah, Stewart at not very well.
Stewart at not very well. He has a illustrious history when it comes to Liverpool and being involved or not being involved in giving us penalties or red cards or anything. That Doku into McAllister, that was Atwell on VAR who decided that was not worth looking at. There are many other examples of him. But for me, that was a penalty. It was very early in the game. Historically, I looked into it, and in the last 11 years or so, there's been 26 penalties across the top 6 teams in the first 15 minutes. And out of curiosity, how many do you think that Liverpool have gotten out of all 26? Just the top 6 teams.
0.
The answer is 0. The answer is 0. And statistically, it's actually pretty jarring. I think out of all of the teams in the first 2 divisions of English football, we are second to last in terms of early penalties given. So the fact that wasn't given wasn't surprising, but I mean, it was a penalty. It was a penalty.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, like maybe there's some debate. I see the Ocean McGlinchey there saying that Salah does, kind of put a bit of an arm out towards him, but
he doesn't. If you watch the
penalty or not, how is it a foul by Mo Salah?
If you watch the replay back, and even Ali McCoist, who's not always pro Liverpool, says the fullback initiates the contact with Salah to block him off. Salah brushed past him. He slips. And it's just the pure panic of trying to get up and trying to get in Salah's way, and he trips him. So it's one of 2 things. It's either a penalty, which is the correct decision, or you book Salah for a dive, or you play on. The one it can't be is a free kick for him. So just Jesus wept.
Yeah.
Hull, so actually, I thought had a good game. I do think they've got a really good left back in Hull. And he got a good test tonight with Salah. Salah was ridiculously good tonight, but it's a penalty. Luckily, because we've won 2-0, no one really cares because it doesn't make any difference. But he was in general a different level of shit tonight, that referee.
Yeah, he was. I mean, Kev, the best part about it is that we don't have to be on here crying about how we were robbed by a referee because a couple minutes later, we just go down the other end and Dominik Szoboszlai, who has found this vein of finishing form of being that 4th man into the box, that late runner coming from midfield, Frank Lampard style runs, completely unmarked, basically. Like Luis Diaz does great to stand his defender up. I think it's Schär that he has and kind of gives him the eyes, gives him the dangles, and then just picks Szoboszlai out and he just slots it home. Like it was somewhat reminiscent of the goal that he got against Man City.
Yeah, you go back a bit further than that. Livramento was already up the pitch. Diaz sees it as Schär, knows that Schär isn't going to come anywhere near him. So he takes it into the box. Tonali was trying to mark Szoboszlai, and he was matching his run. And Szoboszlai must have looked at it as, you carry on there, sunshine. I'll just go and drift back here into the penalty spot. Lewis, I'm here, mate. Passes the ball through 3 players. Picks him out. Yeah, got a deflection through on the way through, but the positioning for that was ridiculous. But that goal for me was all Luis Diaz. Luis Diaz made everything about that goal look a lot easier than what it could have been. He was outstanding tonight, by the way. But yeah, for me, lovely finish. Love seeing a midfield runner coming in deep, and it was exactly what was. It was just reward for a bright start, and I was looking at the way Newcastle were pressing us, and I honestly think that any side that comes to Anfield and presses us high and is really aggressive, you have a really good chance of causing something to turn over and go your way. But if you're standoffish in any kind of way, and you start allowing, if you set up in a 4-4-2 and you allow space in the middle of the park, Szoboszlai will destroy you. And if he doesn't, someone else will. McAllister will make a run. You're just leaving space all over the pitch, and we just exploited it. And that was just the first example of it. There were others. There were lots of others. It was like any kind of anxiety that you might have had going into the game, because, you know, at the end of a run, it's Newcastle, it can be any kind of, it just immediately went, and you could just sit back and enjoy the rest of the game, because they had nothing for us tonight. Newcastle had absolutely nothing for us. It was a great start, a just reward. And, you know, the only, suppose, real disappointment in the first half overall was that we could have probably worked Nick Pope a little bit more. You know, but that's very, very nitpicky.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really pepper the Newcastle goal with a lot of chances or anything like that, but we didn't ever feel like we had to. The game really felt in control from minute one. I have a tradesman who's just popped by to give me a quote, so I might throw myself on mute and let you guys talk through it. But I mean, I'll throw this one to you, Ashley. How does Bruno Guimaraes not get a yellow card on 19 minutes for absolutely clattering Gravenberch after another gorgeous turn from Gravenberch?
I mean, the number of times that I have underlined why no yellow in my notes, I think it's upwards of like 5 to 10 times. I honestly thought that Atwell forgot his cards, because like it's as clear of a yellow card as you're going to see all day, all weekend, for the next 2 weeks. It is so incredibly clear. And this idea of like letting the game flow and all that, like I'm all for that. I'm all for letting some of the fouls go, but like there does come a point where you have like definitive yellow cards that are no longer letting the game flow. They're just, you're not refereeing at all. Like, and the fact that I think it took him until about 75 minutes ish to even take out the yellow card. Again, it's like, I'm surprised he even had them with him. And you know, it's a pain in the butt, because honestly, like, to have another game like this where I personally hate when referees become the center of attention. And the City game was actually great in that I didn't pay attention to the ref. It was all about the football. And that's what I like to see. I don't like to see, you know, referees taking center stage. And this was center stage by lack of intervention, which is weird.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Chris, what do you make of Stuart Atwell in that first half, really? Because it didn't improve.
No, it didn't improve, because then I think even worse, I think it's Shana is wrestling Jota, who does a great touch to keep him off and holds him. He gets held back. He manages to wriggle him off, so he's clean through, and then he blows up for the free kick.
Yeah. And
then doesn't book him, which the rule was, if you've got to play the advantage so Liverpool, you know, and Liverpool goes up, but then the players get booked. But he doesn't even, doesn't play the advantage, gives the free kick and book him.
Yeah,
they were
that
the
was
most obvious. They were the most obvious yellows. It was like every player had the Joe Linton pass card today, where it's like get to 5 or 6 fouls before I'll consider a card. It was just
that
horrific.
one drove me mad because you're right on the halfway. And remember, Ashley, we were talking about this when we were doing the ref show. What would have happened if it was inside our own half and a similar thing happened? It's not kind of identical, but at the end of the day, he has to let that passage of play evolve.
Yeah. I mean, I think there was a covering defender this time, which was a little different. And, there are situations where, like in the one-off occasion where like a goalkeeper comes up for a corner or something and there's no one back, like there could be a red card that happens like in your half of the pitch. It's just very rare that it happens. Yeah. In the scenario that happened today, like the very least you have to do is play out the advantage. And if you don't play out the advantage, you absolutely have to go back and give him a yellow card because, I mean, again, clear as day, like you're not going to see a more clear-cut yellow card probably for the entire week or the whole entire, I don't know, the next game week, you're probably not going to see one. So I just didn't get it in the sense that like it wasn't letting the game flow. It was not refereeing at all.
Yeah, I mean, one mention there, Chris, was about Diogo Jota. How do you think he played throughout the first half?
I thought his link play was good, actually. I thought he used his body well, and I thought he has some nice turns off the ball. He has a great turn where Lewis Hall gets a really good block in to stop Salah with a tap in. Nitpicking, maybe should have gone for goal. But I actually thought he did what you wanted him to do for a number 9. Sort of things you probably want Darwin to do, which is hold it up, link it, and then he drives into the box. So I was happy with his performance. I thought all the front three actually interlinked really well. I mean, Salah was different levels, but I was more than happy with Jota. He got another 60 in his legs, which is really good.
Yeah, Ashley, throughout the rest of the first half, is there anyone in particular that stood out for you that's like, he's really on it tonight, other than Szoboszlai, obviously?
I thought Diaz looked really lively. I thought he was all over the pitch. He was really linking up the play. I mean, the number of times that he was in and around the goal, like he looked rested. And he looked like he was just full of energy. And I think between him and Szoboszlai, like it was like, I don't know who gave them their espresso in the morning, but it was turbocharged for both of them. And it was nice to see. It's nice to see, especially if you have a player that's coming out that has been rested for a little while and Diaz coming back with that kind of aggression. I mean, and in Szoboszlai, like where he finds like the extra energy to run this much consecutively, because I think he ran, it was like 11.5 kilometers in the City game. He looked like, fresh as a daisy today. To have that engine on him. I said something to you guys in the chat where there was a period of time when we first signed Szoboszlai where like in like the first 6 months where we were like, holy shit, who did we sign? Like, who is this guy? He's the next coming of Gerrard. Like, he's absolutely phenomenal. And then we kind of saw him tail off, I think largely due to fitness issues and the jump in class from, the German league to coming into the Premier League. I think we're kind of seeing that version again, if not a better version, because he looks like such a complete midfielder to me.
Yeah, Chris, stick with Szoboszlai for a sec because he had a really good chance on 36 minutes with, look, you describe if you can picture it in your head. How many times did you see Gerrard coming onto that ball?
Just bend,
whip it into,
whip it into the opposite,
into the opposite corner.
Everything about it was like the only thing missing was the goal, because the touch and the whip in it, you were just waiting for it to post it in, and it just goes wide. He was unreal. It feels like in the last 2 games, probably the 2 biggest games of the season in terms of difficulty. It's all sort of, he's got the balance right of everything. The work rate we've always had from him, but now he's picking his passes better. He's starting to learn a little bit of the Gravenberch spin. He starts, he's throwing that into his arsenal, and he's picking his moments to shoot now. So he's just becoming. He's always had this in his game. It was always about sort of getting the balance right, because he'd always be one or the other. He'd either be brilliant defensively, but a bit abject with the ball, or sometimes it'd be okay. Today, the last 2 games, I would say, have been the Szoboszlai we'd love to see on a more regular basis. So couldn't be happier.
Yeah, Matt, come back to you in one second. I just want to ask you about this one. They had a chance with Callum Wilson where he made the run in behind Ibu Konate.
Yep.
But I don't know if you spotted it or not, but Ibu Konate slowed up to let him go and then carried on the run. I mean, he flopped his lines with the chip. But was that the warning shot that we needed, the reminder that, look, it is still only 1-0. They do have a threat. You know, it's only that was on around the half hour, 30. Yeah, it was on about the half hour. So it was always the case. We had defensively, we had to be on our game as well.
Well, I think that defensively we were more switched on. I mean, I think both of the fullbacks had quite good games, and the center halves, well, they didn't stand out quite in the way that they did against Man City because they had so much more work to do in this game. I mean, the thing I have for that one was Isaac scores that goal. Like he buries that. Where Callum Wilson fluffs his lines, Alexander Isak puts that ball into the net, and now the cat's amongst the pigeons. It's 1-1, and we've got a game on our hands. They never really looked threatening. I mean, somebody asked at the start of the show, I think even before we went live, if they had a shot on goal. Did they have a shot on goal?
I think 3 shots, none on target.
So none. Yeah. Didn't have a shot on goal. And I mean, they made a slight tactical switch where they moved Anthony Gordon from left wing, where presumably they thought he was going to have Jeremy Doku levels of fun up against Trent, and kind of shipped him into the middle, gave him a little bit more of a freer role, let him play as a second striker, as a false 9/10 sort of thing. And he still was completely ineffectual. I mean, if I can take away how happy I am over how this has all gone from us from a Liverpool point of view, I was very disappointed in Newcastle. Like, I'm happy that I'm disappointed in them, but I thought they were poor today. And you're missing some players, obviously. You know, when you're missing Isak and like Joe Ellington in the midfield and having to go with Joe Willock instead of him. But it was just, it's 2 games in a row where it's like, I don't think we're ever going to concede a goal ever again.
It'll happen.
I think for Newcastle, it's sort of like 4 losses in the last 8. They have hit a bit of a rut, probably since they qualified for the League Cup final. So you don't know whether there's an element of that as well that's in the back of their minds. So, but I mean, listen, I know they had no Isaac, but that was a strong midfield 3 they picked. I think the back 4 was 3 of their main back 4. The only one you'd swap in would be Botman.
Yeah.
But it's the main goalie. So, you know, it was still a strong Newcastle side. And they post threats. I thought they reacted well to the goal. But apart from the Callum Wilson chance, they never really got near anything else. Because I actually thought the back 4 defended pretty well. The only lapse is Canarsie just a little slow to get out for Callum Wilson. And he is onside when we see the replay. So, but other than that, he
was offside for the first effort. The second one, Wilson would have been onside, and he instead of hitting the ball, you know, proper striker, he tried to curl it in or around the top, and it just went high and wide. But other than that, they really didn't do much else. I mean, you get to half time, and it's like, okay, calm, relaxed, composed. I wanted to see if Slot was going to adjust anything because of a different vantage point of watching the game from that high up. Yeah, you're communicating with the sideline and what have you, but he'll have had a different view of that game as opposed to most other games he's had this season. And I felt we came out for the second half and it was absolutely more of the same. Contain, just manage the situation, manage the game. You know that when you look at their bench, they don't have the options. And they're still playing the same number of games as us. So their legs are going to be feeling it just as much as ours. And if you've got the ball, you just manage the game. And that's how I felt it was going, especially for the first 15 minutes of that half. Don't think we really got out of our half that often, but I never felt in any danger while we were in our own half. You know, it was really controlled, a really disciplined performance from us. Really happy with it.
Yeah, the second half performance was very different from against City with the exact same outcome effectively, where they looked like their game plan was to start with was to try to stymie us with a low block, and then we get the early breakthrough, we get the lead, and what are you going to do? Are you going to have a low block when you're chasing a goal against us? And we just kept him at arm's length. I mean, Ashley, I would say the best part about the second half was about 2-3 minutes in when a final whistle blows a couple 100 kilometers away, and word starts filtering around the ground, and you can hear it bubble up amongst the fans as the news spreads. Notts Forest 0, Arsenal 0. They've dropped more points. That's 1 point out of the last possible 6 for them to get.
First time of the year they've gone back-to-back games without scoring, and they had one shot on target. And I watched most of the first half of this and the 15-minute, the half-time thing. It was desperation of everything was play for a corner, and we're going to get one of these corners. Open play, barely.
I think outside of that, like, what was it? Calafiori hit the post in the first half. That was it. Like, you know,
Odegaard had a great chance, but when you watch the replays, he's offside anyway, so he wouldn't have counted.
I only watched the first half. I mean, I think that the max that they can get now is 87 points. And that's, you know, if everything goes in their favor and, you know, they summon some sort of striker from, I don't know, their defensive academy or something. You know, I think what you're seeing now is like the injuries really taking the toll there, and that style of play really taking its toll. And, you know, I just don't think that there's anything to fear in terms of where we're at right now. I don't think there was anything to fear before, but I think that, you know, we've talked about this before. The media narrative really wants a title race. You know, but even last week when the heads were falling off and it was like, oh my God, like we're losing it. We're gonna, like, the wheels are gonna fall off. Like, it was all just media spin. Like 7 days later, it's literally 7 days later from me saying, I think I said to some people on here, go outside and look at the sky and just take a few deep breaths. Like, it's 7 days.
There's a few F-bombs in there as well, Ash.
There was, yeah, maybe. I mean, that is the way it goes. But like 7 days later, it feels like we're on a different planet. Like, that's how quickly the narrative can change. And I think, I don't know if your stream was like this, but like, my goodness, the narrative behind the commentary was so different tonight for me. Like, listening to them speak about Liverpool, it was all about Mo Salah being the best player in the world, the best winger in his position, how like he's on track to win the Ballon d'Or, how Liverpool have had this in the bag, and how, you know, they're setting a pace that no one else can reach, and blah, 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 blah. It was great to listen to, but it just switched. Like, the minute that City game finished, it was like the media just decided new narrative time. And I love it, but it's amazing how fast it can just, you know, instantly.
Yeah. I don't know about you, Kev. TNT were doing that, but they were also going. Liverpool's been fortunate. They've had none of their significant injuries to any significant players. I'm like going, I'm pretty certain Alisson was out for quite a while, twice.
Yeah,
you know.
Sure.
So I think it's some clubs' lines. A significant injury is Van Dijk or Salah. If they're not injured, it doesn't. All injuries don't count. That seems to be the rule now. But you know, fuck them.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's the main thing.
It's nonsense. I mean, at the end of the day, you look. Every club has injuries. Arsenal's problems stem from poor decisions in the January transfer market. Sorry, not the January transfer, in the summer transfer market, that tied up. I think it tied them in financial knots when it came to January, and I don't think they could afford to get. I don't think they could afford to go after the type of striker that they need, because it's no good signing a striker in January for the sake of a few months. If you're going to be signing a player in January, he's got to come in and affect your side for the next 3 years. So they didn't need to sign Calafiori. It was a waste. You know, an absolute top player, but he's a centre-back. He's a centre-back. They put out to play at left-back when they already had Zinchenko, Kieran Tierney, and a young Lewis Skelly coming through. They already had 3 left-backs. And they went out and spent that money on a luxury that they didn't need. But that is just typical of the business that Arsenal did in the summer. They've built a squad with some very good players in it. Don't get me wrong, they're still a very good side, but it's very imbalanced. There's no balance to that squad. And like every side, when you get injuries, you need your depth. You need your squad to be able to help you out. And they've just hit a brick wall at the minute. And it couldn't have happened at a worse time because we are relentless at the minute. You know, and I've been saying it for months on here. It's up to the rest of them to catch us. We're not stopping. We're not slowing down. We're not going, here, come on, we'll wait for you. No, we're just going to carry on picking up points. If we're playing badly, we're getting draws. We're winning most games. And it was up to everyone else to keep pace, and they just couldn't. You know, I said back in November, this is done. I said there's just nobody is in the league at the minute that's showing any level of consistency, and I thought it would be done by Easter. And I still believe that. I think this league will be over by Easter. You know, mathematically it'll be done.
Be confident, Kev. It'll be over by Paddy's Day. It'll be a good weekend.
We only have one game to play before then. I don't think it's mathematically possible by then, but
probably not.
Anyway, if we do get it done by Easter, just think of the more important thing. Can you imagine Arsenal have to give us a guard of honour and watch their fans get themselves in knots over whether they do, they don't
might
do
be
it.
the thing I want most in the entire world right now, Chris.
I'm a bit at that point. I'm at that point. I'm going. It's just unfortunate. Didn't think it would have made it funny would have been if Everton had to do it, but that's not. I don't think mathematically that.
No,
that
that's
could
not
work
possible.
I don't think so.
They should
Unless,
do
I
it.
mean, Arsenal could fall off a cliff. I don't know. Maybe it's possible.
It's great. The Talkin Kop, which I believe is Gav working behind the scenes here. Quick question: is there anyone left to save football? Get that up, you Arteta. I told you he's weird. Stares at the sky, and then a very good piece of advice. An apple a day makes you champions in May. I gotta say, the old liver bird on my chest is quite a lovely, lovely refrain to hear, just ringing around stadiums as we start what seems like it's going to be a 2.5, 3 month long procession towards league title number 20. I mean, did you guys talk about? No, we just got to the second half. Let's talk about the second goal. I missed it because somebody stopped by to look at a piece of furniture we're trying to sell. Perfect timing. Absolutely perfect timing. I did go back and watch it. And Ashley, I don't want to say it's a mini crisis, but it could give Arsenal a little bit of hope. I know everything's kind of stacked against them, but is this Mo Salah's post-Christmas slump? He's now gone one whole game without scoring. He got the assist. He got the assist. One whole game.
Do you remember that was a thing? Like our own Liverpool fans were going, last time he did this, he fell off a cliff. I was like, I mean, he also tore his hamstring. He also tore his hamstring. That might have been the reason.
He did. And like the thing that we haven't brought up in a little while is the fact that Mo Salah had a summer off, and we haven't seen Mo Salah with a summer off in a long time, and we haven't seen him with a winter off because there's always some random, And I'm not discrediting the fact that the African Cup of Nations is a very important cup for those nations, but it's really nice to see like a fully fit, rested Mo Salah. And like, it does make you wonder like what the football world would look like if we didn't pack the football schedule so heavily, because you see the levels that some of these guys can reach when they actually have a little bit of time off. And I don't think it's a coincidence that these things are happening. I think that, having a fully rested Mo Salah that was there for the Slot preseason, that could take on board all of the things, to see Slot really tweak the system to bring out the best in him. Like, it's like this perfect storm that has come together for him to have this absolute phenomenon of a season. And I mean, the fact that he's still getting an assist, even in a game where he's not scoring, like, I mean, he could have had like a hat trick of assists today. He had so many good balls. It was amazing. Oh, you're on mute, Matt.
It's funny watching. He's such a pro. He's such a pro. He's so good to meet.
He'll figure it out in a second.
I'm constantly talking. Whether anybody's listening or not is never really stopped.
Very rarely, Matt. Keep going.
Yes, it's. He gets his assist, and it really seemed like, Chris, after that, the final 20 minutes of the game, it looked like everybody was trying desperately to get Mo the ball to score. Like it really looked like it.
There was that, and it almost like they were desperately going, let's score off a corner 2 games in a row, and they just couldn't quite do it because they just seemed to go out of their way to let's get a corner and see if we can not fuck one up. Never quite happened. I think Ashley and I might have fell off our chairs if we'd actually scored off corners 2 games in a row. You know, maybe that's asking for too much. But yeah. Oh, yeah. Second half was good fun, though, because I think they said on the side, Johnny Heitinger, who's the top red and which really winds the Blues up, was almost trying to tell Liverpool to slow down because Liverpool were like pushing so much that he's like, no, just it was almost like don't get as excited. We don't need to push this third. But Newcastle were done. I mean, they made a quadruple sub, which normally is a telltale sign shit's hit the fan. Yeah, and unlike the last 20 minutes of this game, the last 20 minutes today was actually quite entertaining. The last 20 minutes of the game, I said to you, was a bit dull, but I'm all right with that. So we've now got probably in the last 3 or 4 games a few 2-0 wins, and everyone's been winning it in a slightly different way. You know, the Brentford grinded it out. You know, the way we won at Bournemouth was probably similar to Newcastle, and then the City win, which was we're going to change tactically. We're going to let you have the ball, and we're just going to pick you off. So I think that's also why Liverpool have got where they are in the league this year is we can win the game 3 or 4 different ways. We've got goals from midfield as well as goals from Mo Salah. And I think that's what the other teams don't have at the moment.
Well, no other team has the Mo Salah, I can tell you that. I see that Karen B and Gav as the Talkin Kop are having a little back and forth here about the Patreon thing. 18th of March, we are switching over from doing YouTube memberships to a Patreon membership model because we have a little bit more freedom to do some fun and exciting things through Patreon, which if you've been watching some of the stuff that we put out this week, especially Good Process on Monday, you can see exactly the sort of stuff that we're talking about that we would never, ever get away with on YouTube. But the stuff that you get for free on YouTube now, because this show goes out free to everybody. So the post-match reaction shows, the Sunday night shows, those will stay on YouTube like normal. The stuff that is for our Patreon members, you will still access it, and it'll be the same look for it for live shows as you're used to with YouTube. You just need to go through your Patreon first so that your membership gets validated, and then you can get in to watch the stream. But some of the other stuff you have to watch exclusively on Patreon because Patreon, again, lets us get away with things that YouTube doesn't let us get away with, and it's fucking awesome. So if you've enjoyed what we've done as a member on YouTube, I would highly recommend. Your prices should be effectively the same, I guess, unless you're in Australia or maybe just Corey. It might just be a Corey thing that he's having so much trouble with the prices being wonky for him.
It does have to do with like the international exchange rate, and the numbers are. Yeah, there's nothing we can do about it. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, Gab has put a 25% tariff on all Patreon memberships out of Australia, so maybe that's the reason for that.
Gab or Kev?
No, Gab. He's the big don of this channel. So, but please look into doing that for us because there's some really fun stuff that we're able to do on there. And the other positive is if you are like I used to be before I got involved heavily with the channel of exclusively listening as a podcast listener. For the lowest tier on Patreon, you get access to all the audio. So shows like the 30 and things like that used to be on YouTube, just simply the video, and there was no audio feed of it. You will now have the audio podcast feed through your Patreon where you can download it into your Patreon and play it like you would a native podcasting app. And it is absolutely lovely because I know I've missed out on some of those members shows because I don't really ever find the time to sit down and watch YouTube unless I'm like actively doing YouTube. Kev, the rest of the game, I mean, we make our full allotment of substitutions. Somebody who a few people thought might never see the pitch again for Liverpool, and Darwin Núñez gets a couple minute run out cameo, gets well received by the fans, puts a half decent shift in, but at that point it was purely arm's reach stuff and just get through this.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the subs that came on, Endo came on and started throwing tackles in as if it was like we were 1-0 down. Loved it. Curtis Jones, quietly composed, moved the ball really well. Darwin comes on, and the first thing he wins a corner, I think, and gets a really good ovation, a rousing ovation from the Kop for it. And pretty much everything he did, there was more effort there. You could see. I mean, he didn't like the dig that was thrown at him, but you know what? It wasn't handed out as a punishment. It was literally saying what everyone else could see. We could all see it. You know, when he missed that chance, who was it against? He missed that open. Was it against Wolves? No, it wasn't.
Villa.
It was against Villa.
Villa.
And the biggest fear when a striker, any player, misses a really good chance like that is they go into themselves. The heads go down, and it just did. You know, he did go into himself, and he did go into a shell, and it wasn't the first time. So Arne Slot is well within his rights to call it, and I don't think he was malicious or nasty or anything about it. I just think, look, strikers will miss chances, but you have to put the workload in. You know, you have to put the work rate in. That's one thing that cannot drop. And you know, he came on tonight and he worked. So fine, you know, good, yeah. Delighted with it. But I just wanted to go back to the goal quickly, the second goal before we move on from it. McAllister, because that was a scrambling play. McAllister was brilliant for it because he carried the ball up into the box, laid it off, went in, held his position, got it back, and clattered it. It's a brilliant finish. You know, and again, midfielders chip it in. That's 7 now for Szoboszlai and 5 for McAllister. 12 goals from midfield. When you think back to Fabinho, Henderson, Gini, we weren't getting that level of contribution.
Did they get 12 goals in 5 years?
No, but it makes a massive difference. If you don't have, you know, Salah's a freak, but it's just another string to the bow. Our forwards are contributing, but when you don't have Jota for a few months and Darwin isn't having a good season in front of goal, you have to get your goals from elsewhere. And here we have 12 goals in the league from midfield. Brilliant. You know, it's a great thing to be able to add another level to this squad. You know, it's phenomenal.
Yeah. It's our new Newcastle friend, Davey Tees, just got in from the pub. All I can say is sorry, gutless, toothless, another Eddie Howe shit show away to Liverpool, and then some cry laughing emojis with it. I mean, yeah, it's hopefully you didn't put money down following your heart and listen to your head there, Davey, in terms of what you thought the result was going to be. But yes, anyways, well done to the new champions. I love how that sounds. Yeah. And as Gav says in reply, you face the best in the country tonight. I wouldn't worry about it. And I mean, yeah, Newcastle is, I mean, especially if Isaac isn't out for a long period of time, and Sven Botman can come back in and give a little bit of rest to Fabian Schär and Big Dan Burns, big long legs. They're in a pretty decent position to be pushing for that third, fourth, fifth level positions and getting into the Champions League next year. And then, of course, you know, we have something of a Wembley date with us and Newcastle for the day before Paddy's Day. Can't wait. The business end of a season when you're not shit. It is absolutely, absolutely lovely. Davey pointing out he's in his 50s, so he's used to disappointment. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but hey. Can't win them all. Well, how's about we go around and do a little player of the game, honorable mention, needs to improve. Let's start with, let's go with the quote queen herself. Ashley, you can go first.
It's been a while since I've gone first.
You go first most of the time.
What?
You go first most of the time.
No, I don't.
You and Kevin are the favourites.
Well, I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit this time, and I'm going to go with Szoboszlai because I
what a
think he's
shock.
outstanding. I think just his running power. When Szoboszlai has a good game, we have a good game, and I think it's as simple as that. And I think, you know, he's doing so much work off the ball, and he's really like the heartbeat of the engine of the team. And I think you're just seeing him click into a gear that we kind of all like wanted him to have, but to actually see it come to fruition is something really special because, I mean, he's up there with one of the best midfielders in this league at this point in time. The way he's playing right now, I mean, I wouldn't trade any of our midfielders right now. I wouldn't and that, you know, that includes Endo coming on as a sub. Like, it's amazing and incredible what we've built and what, you know, Schmatka built from his sun lounger in Ibiza. Like, the fact that he was able to build this midfield over one summer is just, it's outstanding. So he's my man of the match. My honorable mention goes to Diaz because I think that, like I said earlier, he was just full of energy. He was full of passing. I think, you know, Salah gets his own little category on the side where it's always Mo Salah. So, you know, I'm going to give it to Diaz this time because I always give the attention to Salah. Could do better. This was one of those games where I think that like everyone really did quite a solid job. I thought our fullbacks were a little bit like they were a little bit lackluster. I for some reason I feel like something's going on with Trent where he just doesn't seem like 100%. And I don't know if he's still coming back to fitness or if he's carrying something or what's going on with him. But like, obviously he had a few like Hollywood passes. There was one that like could have been a goal of a season contender. But yeah, I don't know. He just kind of stood out as someone that just wasn't as turned on as the rest of the team. But that might be me being harsh.
It's extremely harsh, actually, but we'll let it slide. We'll let it slide. Kopites Rule saying all hail Schmadka, release clauses or not. I mean, somebody shared, I don't know if it was in our members Telegram group or in a WhatsApp, a picture of Declan Rice for 115 million and 5 of our midfielders for like 108 million or something like that. And I think Declan Rice is a good player, but yeah, I think I'd rather have our 5. Chris, I won't make you go last. You can go second. Who are your nominees?
God's sake, I get the Arsenal position. Brilliant. I mean, Dominik Szoboszlai is the right answer. There is nobody else who could be man of the match. Honorable mention, I really like McAllister's performance. I just think he knits things together. You know, he's got that nice balance between the holding role and pushing on. He loves to get hurt. He just seems to go out of his way for who can knock him out first. I've never seen anyone take so many lumps in a game. And could do better. I'll just say the officials because I don't think anybody was poor for Liverpool. I thought everyone was solid. Even Trent. I know he's the easy one to get picked on. There's quite a few some of the comments who don't like him, but defensively, thought he was fine. I thought he was brilliant with the ball. I thought he was excellent with the ball. And my mate Sim McCastle thought was solid. So there isn't. I think I'd go with the officials because he was shit.
Yeah. He wasn't. He was a last minute replacement, so maybe he.
Did they find him off the street?
Yeah, I mean, he left his skill at home or something like that. Like he forgot to bring his whistle and his ability to the match, and was like, "Oh shit!" But they had a spare whistle, I guess. I mean, on McAllister, on the 81st minute, he gets caught by Bruno Guimaraes' cleats on the follow through from a kick, and he's down on the ground. And I just wrote, he is the definition of in the wars. I mean, he gets bashed constantly, and he seems to love it. Kev, who are your choices?
Well, I'll give man of the match to Diaz. Purely and simply completed more dribbles than anyone else, created more chances than anyone else, won more duels than anyone else. Just on that alone. But I just think that Livramento is a really good fullback. All right, I think he's a really good player, and Diaz just tore him to shreds. He was just having fun tonight. Really lively, really dangerous. The assist for Szoboszlai's goal was brilliant, but his work rate up and down the pitch was there all night long. And I haven't seen I haven't seen him enjoy a game like that in a long time. He just looked like he was having fun. And that was great to see. Yes, Szoboszlai, energy personified. I love a set of lungs like that man has. That man has the best set of lungs I've seen in a footballer in a long time. He just loves running. He looks like an athlete.
Absolute weirdo.
He's just a phenomenal footballer. And he's starting to, I think, be comfortable now in the fact that you're playing for Liverpool, you're playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world, you belong here, and you've justified your price tag, and you're going to get better. It's ridiculous the fact that he's going to get better. But we have not even touched what this guy's going to evolve into yet. Could do better. I think Jota could do better with some of his hold-up play in the first half. His link-up play was really good. Some of his reverse passes were really good. But I think it's just down to a lack of sharpness and a lack of match fitness and confidence. I still think he's feeling his way back in to trusting his body, but I just think he'll get better for the more minutes he plays, the longer he stays fit, the more he's available to train, he'll get better. But yeah, I think he's probably the one that you could say, yeah, there's more to come from him. And I don't mean it as a disparaging comment on Diogo Jota whatsoever. I think he played well, but I just think that he gets some of that link-up play. absolutely on point, and there's more goals in that front four there's more goals in that front four going down the line, going into the final run-in. Defensively, we were solid. Alisson had nothing to do. Konate and Virgil were just brilliant. Trent, some of his passing was a joke. It's just one of those nights. It was one of those nights where you sit back, put your feet up, and enjoy watching the Reds. Love those nights.
I could take about 10 more of those, plus a few more in Europe and one more down at Anfield.
We only need 7 in the league, so
I want all 10.
Bonus.
I want the 97 points. I want as close to my 114 as I can possibly get. Kieran B saying Sabo is going to have one of those seasons. We'll score a bucket load of goals. You can see it coming a mile away. He's only around 23. And before I'd even found this comment from like 10 minutes ago and put it up, Ashley put in he's only 24. So you've got like corrected from the future somehow, which is truly impressive. No, that's an impressive skill to have. That's really good. My man of the match, I mean, it's got to be Dominik Szoboszlai. I believe that's 5 straight 90s. So in 15 days, that's 5 90 minutes from Dominik.
Where he's running like 10 to 12K every single game.
It's outrageous, and it's not that Pyrrhic victory where it's like, you should see all the work that he does off the ball. Like, he's got 2 goals and an assist in his last 2 games. It's outrageous. Somebody there says he needs a better haircut. He's growing it out. That's what he's doing.
You know what? Since he's had the headband, things have really looked up for him. So you know what?
So leave it.
I would leave it for as long as he can have long hair, and Matt can
grow it
be
out.
Jealous. But
grow it out.
What's interesting about that is that Slot called him out very early in the season, saying, Szoboszlai should be on the end of goals a little bit more often. And he knew it. He knew that he had this in him. And to see that, really come forward and to be the player that Slot really wanted him to be, credit to both the coach and the player in that situation for recognizing that he could be that guy.
Yeah. And he has been that guy. And fucking, if anybody has deserved the week rest that we get now, because we got dumped out of the FA Cup with the reserve side away to Plymouth, I think Dominik Szoboszlai might be the most most to have earned that week-long rest. My honorable mention, I would also give it to Luis Diaz. He really looked on it. And I agree with Kev, just the amount of times that he was back helping double up with Tsimikas down on that left-hand side, and happy to do it, get the ball, turn it, and drive it upfield, taking men on, just dribbling for fun. It was absolutely wonderful. Could do better. There was at one point where Konate went on a full Joel Matip and found himself 10 yards out of their box, and it was like, oh fuck, shoot! At this point, man, you've come this far. But I won't give it to the refs, because the refs can always do better because they're fucking terrible. Nobody on our team, I thought, was poor. I think everybody was just as good as you could ask them to be, or better. And it's just these are very, very good days. God, I love being a fan of this team. I can't imagine being a fan of somebody else. We've got now stats and quotes here, courtesy of Ashley, and we're going to run through those. Liverpool have now scored 2 or more goals in 18 consecutive games at Anfield in all competitions, the longest run of home games with more than 1 goal scored in succession since Sunderland from 1935, which is 19. And I believe our next home game is against Southampton. So feels pretty good about that. Szoboszlai after the match says, well, we aren't mathematically champions, so we're thinking about PSG, which is the correct thing to say. Alexis McAllister says, I think the desire to win trophies is driving us. We know that this season we maybe have the opportunity to win some, so we are really happy to work really hard, and hopefully we can keep going. Arne Slot, who I guess was shouting this from the luxury boxes.
He did his media stuff after the game.
He had a giant.
Was he allowed to do his media stuff?
Yeah, and he did his pre-match stuff as well.
That's a bunch of bull crap. You got to give Johnny Heitinga. What was that stat you shared with us, Chris? That Johnny Heitinga is the first person with an Everton connection to take charge of Liverpool since W.E. Barclay in 1895.
Yeah, it's just a random stat that came up on social media. It's
amazing.
Well done. That's a good
one. What a red. Yeah, Johnny Heitinga. Arna says, most important thing after Everton, Wolves, and Villa, people started to doubt us. Then you have to react to that. That's always easier because people start to question you. But after City, everyone was so positive, then people start to get confident and complacent. Only the ones that want to achieve something, they find another gear to win the next game as well. Nice to have the compliments. This was more like the way that we won the previous games. Difficult against Man City, that's separate. This was more like how we have been winning games all season. We've had a lot of praise after the City game, but before that, we had 2 draws and not the best game against Wolves, so we were questioned. 9 out of 10 people say we're going to work harder. This was a different challenge because people were so positive after City. Yes, we were. That needs a different kind of mental strength than to face a tough Newcastle side a few days later. Unfortunately, we don't play in the FA Cup this weekend, so we have a couple days off, and some players need that, but others could have had a game. On rest this weekend, oh yeah, I literally just said that. On Szoboszlai, Arne says, humble, unbelievable work rate. He deserves his goal, and I think he was man of the match. He gets my credit every single game, but now more from the people. I mean, Kev, you got to feel like, Arne Slot picked him as man of the match. I mean, come on.
I know.
Terrible. More on Szoboszlai. Arne says he's the type of player that always looks for a teammate in a better position than him if he has the chance. He deserves the credit he is getting at the moment. He already got my credit every single time he played for us. And then Szoboszlai says, when I came to Liverpool, I wanted to win everything in my first season, so I don't like to talk about it. First, we have a Champions League game to prepare, and then a Premier League game, and then we have a cup final against a really tough team. We have to be ready and focus first on Champions League, and then the final after that. And Eddie Howe says, 2 really soft goals to concede. And, well,
no, that's fair.
I mean,
from Newcastle point of view, they were poor.
I think they were well worked. You had players in the box with a lot of space, though.
Yeah.
Where they
That's what I
definitely
mean.
Defended it better. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Sonali should have definitely tracked Szoboszlai's run when he checked back out, and McAllister should not have that much space in the box after
Bruno has him and walks away from him.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really poor defending from their point of view, and it's something that they pride themselves in, is being able to defend in their shape. And he brought Sonali in for his experience, and he was anonymous. He was absolutely anonymous today. He couldn't get on the ball, couldn't dictate anything, and when he was really found wanting on the defensive end when it really mattered. So yeah, Eddie has every right to be pissed off.
Yeah, I would question. I mean, I thought that Bruno Guimaraes looked like an absolute idiot with his stupid peroxide gray hair, but he didn't play as good with regular colored hair. So maybe his power stemmed from the ridiculous dye job that he had in there. But I'll tell you what is not a ridiculous job, and that is the job that friend of the channel, Peter Smith, is going to be doing, playing Phil Lynott at the Vicar Street Theatre in Dublin in June. The dates for the show in April and May are all sold out, so too late if that's when you're available to go to it. But if you want to support a member of the show, or you're just a Thin Lizzy fan and you're going to be in Dublin around June, please check that out for tickets. You'll find a link in the show description below. It'll be good once Phil's done all of this, that we can get him back on a show and he can come in and, maybe a quick guest appearance when we have a celebratory show after the mathematics are all done and we've got the league in the bag. We can have everybody in for a little can session and talk about how great our team is. But Phil's also got a movie coming out called Code Red Spain. You'll find the trailer for that.
You did the same thing I did. You're saying Phil instead of Pete.
Yeah, that's twice.
Basically the same person, aren't they? I mean, they fight so
he's
well.
playing a character called Phil, I think, and that's why it's confusing. It's hard to read.
He had one job to do. It's written down for you and everything.
I'm not reading this stuff. You think I'm going to read this? What am I, professional? Look away
Clearly
from
not.
the screen and
Clearly
get absolute
not.
pelters in the after show comments. Come on, give me a break. I'm a professional.
Can't get the staff, Kev. Can't get the staff.
Don't put me into this. I want nothing to do with this whatsoever.
Yes, yeah, you just stay in the background there. But yes,
Switzerland
please,
over there.
If you're interested in live rock and roll theater, help us out. Help out friend of the show, Pete. Get tickets for that if you're going to be in Dublin in June. And then when Code Red Spain comes around, I mean, maybe we can do a pre-recorded Patreon show where we all sit around and watch it.
I like
the
the
knives out. Yeah, that's an idea. But either which way, damn, we are so fucking good, and we are like, I think Opta's got us at 98% to win the league now.
At 98 now. That's so exciting.
Life is good. Life is good.
drink it up and enjoy it. Like enjoy these next few months, because we didn't get to enjoy it the way we wanted to the first time. Well, not the first time, but the last time it happened. Enjoy it this time.
Yeah. I mean, really, that's the best advice that anybody can possibly give you. Sing your songs. I mean, beat your chest. Be fucking unbearable, because come next season, we could be the team that's in 5th and taking absolute pelters from all angles. You can only crow about being the top when you're actually at the top. Chris, anything else before we get out of here?
Just to know that as long as Arsenal finish second this year, they will equal their own record of most consecutive second place finishes in the Premier League. So,
do you get a trophy for that? Is that like
it's a little silver spoon you get.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah,
because that goes well.
That'll
with
look nice in their trophy cabinet, right next to their community shield.
You get
next to European Cup.
Community
Oh, sorry, no, they haven't got that yet, have they? Sorry.
Yeah,
you get a plate for the community shield.
It's
you
a
get
plate
a
and a
fork
spoon. Pretty soon they'll have a whole dinner set. It'll be great.
You get a fork. You get a fork for winning the home Champions League group stage table. You get a fork for that, and I think you get a spoon for taking more points off of Nottingham Forest than Liverpool did. So I think they've got a full single serving there. There's no salad fork or soup spoon or anything like that. They're
no cups. Can't have a drink.
They certainly don't have any cups.
No.
Kev, any final words?
No, just look, chalk them off. There's a game coming up. We'll be back here next Wednesday night, and we'll do it all again. And there's going to be a lot of noise now for the next, I'd say, the next two weeks about contracts, about everything and anything that is non-football related. They can't talk to us about football anymore, so they gotta create a story around something else. Don't get dragged into it. Don't get sucked into the noise. Enjoy what's in front of you, because you don't know what's coming next summer. We have no idea what's going to happen. So enjoy what you got at the moment and see where it takes us. Anything's possible from here.
Yeah. Coombs14 asking, how do I become a member? Don't see the subscribe button anymore. We are making the shift over to Patreon on the 18th of March. So if you want to become a member, head on over to Patreon. We're going to start shifting everything over to that platform from YouTube. The free stuff will still be available on YouTube. I ran through this all before, but that's why you don't see the subscribe button anymore there, Coombs14. Ashley, anything else before we go?
Nope, just enjoy the ride, guys.
Why is that? Because a team that plays the Liverpool way and wins the championship in May. Finishes at Anfield, Liverpool 2, Newcastle 0. We are 13 points clear at the top of the table, and things are fucking rosy in the garden. Thanks for joining us, folks. Adios.